to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, open public forum. Anybody wishing to speak? Otherwise, we'll move to number 3, approval of the agenda. I need a motion. So Doug makes a motion.
I'll second.
Gary seconds it. Any discussion on the agenda? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Minutes, June 13th, 2017. Recommendation to approve the minutes of the June 13th, 2017 City Council meeting as presented. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Shannon makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Jamie seconds it. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Park Board and Splash Pad Committee update. Tom, Tim, whoever wants to sit up there.
Should we get a third chair?
We can get a third chair up there, yeah. There's actually one right over here.
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us again. It's good to be back. Good evening. You guys should all have the packet, and I think we can, Bridget, if you're okay, just kind of skim through it. Or I guess we can open if there's any questions before we get started.
Dave, we skip through it.
If you want to go through it real quick,
Save-
then, yeah,
Yeah, then if there's any questions,
Yeah.
somebody can raise their hand and I
Yeah,
can answer it.
we'll stop you
Perfect.
and, yep.
Yeah, and just to recap, in October of last year, we first went to the Park Board. Park Board supported it. We came to the council. Council says, yep, go back to the Park Board. Sounds like we need to start a subcommittee. Go basically answer a few questions. Location, and then construction costs and operating costs. And then I've added a couple bullet points here, but formed the committee of a good mix of Park Board, a couple people from the Park Board, a couple people from the city, and then some citizens. And then last week, the Park Board approved coming here to make some recommendations. So that gets us up to speed. The next page, really the first big question is location. Pioneer Park, which, Wayne, I don't know if you want to hit on it a little bit about where the Park Board had it in a 5, maybe a 7-year plan. You guys had talked about Pioneer Park being a potential location.
Sure. As far as the park board, we had a kind of an agenda over the last couple of years to kind of figure out what our priorities were, and then we kind of had things outlined, and then Tim and Tom come with us and mentioned that they'd be willing to try to generate some funds to help with the splash pads. We kind of bumped that up our priority list, and we talked about different locations: Pioneer Park, Granite Landing, a few properties that the school had, that type of thing.
Yeah, so it kind of had been talked about going in Pioneer Park, so we wanted to kind of pull back the layers of the onion and look at anything in Cold Springs. So I think we had 2, probably 3 meetings as a committee that literally just brainstormed potential locations. So we considered well over a dozen sites. School property, north side of town, south, everywhere. And we narrowed it down to 3, which are listed here. Rocori properties in general, they have some unique spots, and then Pioneer Park, of course, and then Granite Landing, a specific parcel at Granite Landing. And there is good and bad on all of them. The quick summary, without listing every pro and con on Rocori was non-committal. I think there's some opportunity there, but there wasn't a clear spot, and they weren't even sure if they would consider, and then the whole relationship of city-owned, school-owned, and all of that. It's not completely off the table, but it was clear that it quickly fell into third place. With Pioneer Park, good access to water and sewer, economically probably the best deal in town, but we're losing some visibility. We're not adding any new park space. And when we started through these meetings, we also kind of enhanced the vision of what we wanted this park to be. And once again, without listing every pro and con, it kind of led us to the Granite Landing. The high visibility in downtown here, keeping the main street vibrant, the overall look of downtown, close to the businesses, close to the river and the new promenade, the boardwalk along the river that's proposed. It's right next to the bike trail, one of the big things. I know that there's been plans to maybe put like a trailhead and maybe some restrooms to feed the bike trail. And with that being competed through Rockville, it just seems like a very good opportunity to combine two projects. Bike trail stuff, potential splash pad stuff. Good access to water and sewer. They're putting new water and sewer in right now, but it's right on the corner where that is accessible. Easy to get to. You can walk or bike. Kids can get there, families can get there. And then also could become a bigger phase project. We've talked about, like I said, the trailhead for the bike path, even a fishing pier, amphitheater, maybe a new home for a farmer's market type stuff. The other kind of unique attribute to that is the Granite Company has been very supportive of the project, especially in their property, and they have pledged to give us full assistance on helping with design and no formal commitment, but featuring granite type elements into a park at a discounted rate, or who knows exactly what that would be, but they've been very forthcoming with being able to help. They're excited about the potential down there. Adequate parking, that's a little bit of, there's enough space there, and the plan would be to put in a parking spot. So there isn't currently adequate parking, but this 2.86 acres would, end result, be adequate parking. The improve the downtown parking, I think, and I know it's been talked about many times, just downtown parking. If we have a parking lot that's downtown, I think we can help improve that problem that still exists. And I think one of the biggest things is attract people from other communities, which I think any splash pad would, but one with high visibility, that when you come into town with the newly paved and the streetscaping we're doing, come into town and you see the splash pad on your left, I think like people maybe talk about the Waite Park one, and Waite Park's even admitted they completely underestimated how many people would come and travel to their splash pad. I think that's kind of one of our goals. It's got some uniqueness to it, 2.86 acres. And then one very unique piece about the Granite Landing property is the little bit of research, a little bit of time we've had to research grants. It offers some specific things that we wouldn't be able to get on Ricori properties or at Pioneer Park. River canoe access type monies. And Nate, I don't know if you want to hit on that a little bit. The research you did on grants, there was specific things that this might be eligible that other property, because it was a new project.
It was more kind of commercial land turning green, like you make green space or you make parks. There were some grants for bigger projects. There were some grants for smaller projects. Obviously, you need a grant writer, or we'd have to pool our resources to get some of those grants. But it seemed like the bigger you go, the more opportunity there was for grants. Unless you go to Pioneer Park, we're not changing a lot. We're not adding a lot like they would there as far as commercial into park space or green space.
So that leads to the cons, which the one big con, if we're doing a pros and cons list, is it would be property that we would have to purchase. When I say we, the city, so the cost of the land is certainly a con. And as a pro, but also a con, close to a busy road and close to a river, how it's designed, how it's laid out certainly offers some risk with a river and streets being right there. And then it is currently private property, so by the city purchasing, that would be a loss in tax revenue or an even potential tax revenue. And then it is an old quarry site, so we have to figure that out, settlement, what does that site pertain? Some might make the argument that, hey, it's a perfect site for a park. But I think that would something that we'd have to get comfortable with, is that specific piece of property. So that's the location summary. The next piece is, okay, so what is this gonna cost? If we jump to the next page, construction costs, we got put in contact with a guy who kind of specializes in splash pads. He's built some in the St. Cloud area, or in central Minnesota. But he's out of Wisconsin, has done a lot in Wisconsin. So this Mead Park is a real live example. It's one that either just got completed or is in the works right now. A flow-through system, which we'll get to that a little bit later, some detail, but it's basically water in, water out. 3,900 square feet, 2,800 of a wet, the actual splash pad, a wet area, 23 features, and then push button, 70% of the features turn on. And this is using 98 gallons of water a minute, about 2.4 million gallons of water it goes through. So water use is certainly something we have to keep in mind. And then you'll see a picture. So that's an actual 3D image of the park. And then if you turn to the next page, that's an aerial view of what the park looks like. And then in this project, they had a restroom, shower building, some decorative walls, some landscaping, landscape beds, shade structures, patio. It was a full park, and they spent about $580,000 on it. 112 was for the splash pad features themselves. So he's saying that a typical splash pad, if you have favorable conditions, the big thing is water close, is sewer close, where are you building it? The actual splash pad is about $240,000. And just as a side note, Westwood Park, they spent about $340,000 on theirs. So you can spend anywhere from $240,000, and of course they can go way up from there. But this is a real life example. We thought it was very comparable to kind of what we were envisioning for size and scope and features. So we think it's a very good comparable. I think it is important to just at least briefly talk about flow through versus recirculation. This would be a decision we'd have to make further down. But essentially, flow through, water in, water out, a lot of consumption of water. And water gets talked about a lot in this city. That's something that we'd have to get a comfort level with. A recirculation system acts more like a pool. The good news is you don't use nearly as much water. The bad news is it's more expensive to build, and you have to have a certified pool operator, and it has to be tested every day. It has to run just like a pool. So that changes the game. You have more equipment, more things that can go out, and there will be kind of an ROI calculation, but it is going to have to be a discussion that we talk about. One thing that is interesting, what people are trying to do with flow-through systems is reuse that water one time, the gray water. For example, at Lake George, they used to actually pump water into the lake to keep the levels up. Now they take the water from the splash pad and they put it in the lake. So could we use it for irrigation? Can we have it in a tank or a pond and then be able to sprinkle the lawn with that one-time use water? So that's how some people are trying to get an extra use out of it. If we flip to the next page, so we got location, we got cost. What does it cost to operate? What are the reoccurring costs? So this is a copy and paste from the gentleman. He said we could share this with you. This is, if you notice, the far left is a 2,500 square foot system. The one that I gave you the pictures of, I think, is 2,800. So once again, a relatively equal comparison. And 2,500 square feet. Flow through, the WQMS stands for the recirculation, and as you can see, you bring it down, they're putting in $5,200 in water cost and $6,500 in sewer cost. So how we classify those when it comes down, it kind of ends up being about the same, but that would be a soft cost to the city. Now I get it, water out, sewer in, there is a cost to it, but this is using public rates, whereas if it was a city facility, it would be an internal cost, not cash out of pocket, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But when you put it on a 10-year or a 15-year, you start getting your cost over a 15-year period, and you can compare the two. Of course, would have a more detailed conversation about this. The parameters and assumptions down below, I did qualify those to make sure that they're at least relevant with Bridget and Chris. So we are looking at relevant numbers, but they aren't the exact numbers on cost of water per gallon or cost of sewer per gallon. But I do think it helps illustrate. They're close. You know, so we're looking at 15,000-ish a year to run this, 12. You know, when we just had an off-the-cuff conversation with Way Park, they threw out a number of 60,000. And we're like, well, God, you know, this hard data saying 50, they're saying 60. So we actually called them back and had them qualify, and they retracted a little bit. Well, we don't have the exact cost on this, but they ended up having to, they had some plumbing issues. They actually ripped up some concrete. They have a recirculation. So they had some pumps they had to replace. They designed it with mulch playground. The mulch was going into the filter system. So they had a whole bunch of design issues, and I think they were taking in some of those replacement costs into their operating costs. But I did want to note that there's a risk here. If we don't build the right splash pad or we make some design mistakes, it's going to have to get fixed. It's going to cost somebody money. And yeah, as I know, they've replaced equipment and broken pipes and stuff. So that gives a snapshot of that. To talk specifically, the committee and the park board, so the committee itself unanimously recommends moving forward with the 2.86 acre parcel in Granite Landing. The park board supported that decision. Obviously, it's now that, is it viable? Can that deal be done? The 2.86 is east of Winter's Bar, south of the old Swiel Hardware. And then there is the conceptual drawing that the Cold Spring Granite has provided us, which I have some larger copies if somebody wants to see some larger copies. And as you can see from the Cold Spring Granite's drawing, the parking lot kind of on the southwest corner, and then the splash pad. And it's hard to see on this image, but that is like a 3-foot granite wall along the north property. So the one thing with talking to people, I never really thought about it, but parking lots and close to the park, you want to have some sort of separator. You don't want lurkers. You don't want creepy people out there. You want to have some separation. But if we have separation, then how do you keep them off the property? So there's been some thought already put into the design. And I think the point is this property's big enough where if we do move forward, we have a lot of options to build a really nice park. Not just a splash pad, but a really nice park. And you know, they're showing amphitheater and different playground type stuff, all as potential phased options. Then we get into some of the numbers. Those are just some estimates that we have. I think that's kind of up to you guys to dive into that, but we wanted to have some numbers on that. And then, so how are we going to pay for this? You know, it's hard for us to estimate. And Dad, I don't know if you want to talk about.
Not really.
We put a $350,000 number on. Our goal to be able to raise privately. You know, you hate to make that goal and then come up way short, but yet if you don't set the goal high, how do you achieve it? So, and then I'll let you kind of hit on but corporate donations, grants, sometimes grants can be further out. And then definitely hit all of the local nonprofits, the Legions, the Lions, the JCs, the Sportsmen's, which we're actually already getting some pledged money for this. One example would be Hometown Pride Days. And then just general cash donations, small fundraisers, just public people. But really going to target kind of that $10,000 to $5,000 a year to businesses over a 5-year period. So looking for that $25,000 to $50,000 contribution. And then I think the one big thing would be the large companies that have community funds, Xcel Energies, Mid-Continent, Stearns Electrics. A lot of these big companies have appropriated money for communities that they serve. We're hoping to be able to snag at least one of those. And, you know, Dad, I know you've done some research. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, Tim really covered on how we're planning on raising the money is by getting people to make 5-year commitments. You know, if you ask somebody for a $50,000 donation, it sounds like a lot of money, but if you can do it over 5 years, that 10,000 is a little easier for bigger companies to pay than 50,000. So that's our goal, is to go out and talk to the businesses around town and see what we can raise. And if you look at this grant, the second last, or third last page where they have the picture of the park, and you see that 2.86 acres. You know, when we've been discussing it, that's the Granite Company land. But you guys, if you look to the east, is where you're going to have your river walk next to the river. And one reason why I personally think this is a good spot is parks that have water make the parks look so much nicer. So, you know, people love water. So that's where we're thinking we can get some grant money, put in some fishing piers or something. We're only assuming this at this time. And then if you go across the river, there's that little triangle that just sits there. And that is owned by the Macquarie Trail Committee, Trail. And we would talk to them to see if we could get, you know, it isn't a big piece of property, but tie it in with this park. And so it all looks like one big area, you know, where you have the you know, they can walk across the bike trails, see the water come over the dam. They'll see some fishing piers hanging down, and that's where we think we can get some grant money to put in some fishing piers and to clean up that whole area. So when you're coming into town, we're taking, you know, you have a nice view, just like you have on Red River now. When you turn, you got the nice granite ledges, you know, that's pretty impressive. Now, if we can open this area up and make this look great.
Well, you have the dam there, you have the bike trail, you have the river. Probably one of the prettiest areas in downtown Cold Spring for sure. To try to enhance that, clean up the trees, and when we say fishing pier, picture some big slabs of granite that are flat with a metal railing. People are fishing down there anyways. Let's make it inviting and make it safer. Have some safe railings. You can have piers on both sides. And, you know, from the biking community to fishermen to families who want to go to the splash pad, there's a lot of neat things that could happen on that piece of property.
And I know by taking this one, you're taking some property out of the tax base. But every small town that doesn't have a highway going through it, the small town main streets are dying. And I just think this is a big asset for the downtown area to take up almost 3 acres and make it usable, so we don't have so many empty spots going along the line. And I think it's inviting to some businesses to build in that area when you have a nice looking area coming into town. So that's about it, but I think you have to realize the money it's going to cost to maintain it. And going back into it, you know, if you're going to recycle the water and put in a swimming pool atmosphere, you're going to have to keep a lifeguard on duty. That's just, it runs under the same.
You don't technically have to have a lifeguard. You either have to post it or have a lifeguard.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, I retract from that. I think he's wrong, but no. But, you know, the cost of running it as a swimming pool is a lot more expensive than just using the water as a flow-through system. But you are taking a lot of water, and they estimate it's, you know, it's going to take 2.5 million gallons of water a year to run it, and that's something you'd have to look at. But when they build the park, a couple of things that people probably don't know is when you open the park up, none of the water runs until people show up, and then you have to push a button, and then that will start some of the
70% of the features will turn on. 70% of the features will turn on, but it's only on for 4 minutes. And then they shut off automatically. So if the kids leave, it will quit after 4 minutes. So it isn't that the water keeps running. But they do use that calculation in the water that's being used. So what we would like tonight, or sometime soon, is to get your blessing to see if we can go ahead and build that in this area. And the land's going to have to get purchased, and then we'd go out and raise some money to Help fund it.
help fund, put the thing in. Any questions from anybody?
Just one note on the staffing, Wade Park is running about 2 to 4 hours per day, 7 days a week. So that's about what they're running.
And theirs runs like a pool. They're the recirculation. So 2 to 4
recirculation.
hours a day, yep, per day, 7 days a week.
Tim, do you want to touch on the fact that Wade Park has said we could come there, or anybody from the council?
Oh, that's a good point. We have two people. We could, anytime we want, Wade Park said they would take us through, anybody from the council or anybody that's interested, and take us through and show us how their park works. So we could do that. And another thing, this guy that gave us this printout, the guy from Wisconsin, would be willing to come up anytime, sit with the council, and give a presentation on how the parks work and difference between a flow through and a recycling area system. And he would do that anytime. He said it takes 45 minutes to an hour. So that's something that we could set up, you know, to help you make your decision to see if that's something you're interested in.
Is there any requirement for a park as far as number of parking spaces?
I think that would be is that a city deal, park?
Well, you don't have to look it up now.
I have it right here,
Just
but I don't know if we have a park listed as a type. That would be one that is considered a use not specified or precisely identified, so it would be calculated by the zoning administrator. So there is no set number.
Okay.
John, what about the water? Any concern about that at all, or?
My concern is, I talked with Ron Berger over in Painesville, they just put that splash pad in, 2 phases of it, and he said avoid the recirculating water if you can. So
Okay.
that's the biggest pain.
Mm-hmm.
Way more efficient, or not efficient on water, but way more cost effective to do the pass-through system.
That's what,
But I do like the idea of the sprinkler, maybe turning into a sprinkler water. That's a
Yeah,
good idea.
I like that idea too.
Yeah, try to do something with it
Do
versus
something
just
with
putting
it,
it right
yeah.
into the storm sewer.
And 2.4 million gallons of water is on the high end, and I don't know if it's an issue for us in Cold Spring.
Okay.
I mean, we got the breweries deal, that was 280 million gallons of water, there's quite a difference there.
Mhm.
2.4, I mean, we can squeeze that in.
Anybody got anything else?
I do.
All right.
You know, I think we absolutely need something like this in the community. I think back when most of us were raising our kids and how often we talked about when we were children being able to bike out to Big Fish Lake and jump in the lake and then bike back to town. And of course, that disappeared and as a public place to go, and we don't have a lake or a pool or anything like that in the community. And I would have to believe that most parents who have little kids would absolutely love to see something like this. I totally agree that coming into the community across the bridge, it would be a very impressive thing to have to possibly draw some more new families into the community. And I would totally support it.
thank you.
I agree, but I have one concern with the Granite Company asking us to build our government center on their property. Are they specifically talking about Granite Landing? Or are they just talking about if they sell it to us this cheap that we're obligated to buy a hunk of their property too?
So I don't know, Bridget, if you want to take that one. I put it in there only because it was a comment made. They quickly kind of, basically wanted to keep the negotiation. I think they're hoping to kind of make a package deal. I don't think it would be the catch-all be-all. And Bridget, I don't know if you want to add to that.
I really don't, because the closed session, I do have a total package that needs to be discussed, as I've got an offer from them for the total package that will be part of the closed session.
Yeah, okay, and I was trying to stay neutral. They said it, I wanted to have it out there and not leave it out, but yeah, I think some things have developed since then.
Okay, good enough. I think it's a great idea, and I think making it a fire department theme is an excellent show of respect to our department, and I'm all supportive of it. I would like to, if that gentleman from Wisconsin is willing to come down here, I'd like to invite the public here to get their opinion, get some perspective from them, and get his deal. I think touring either Painesville or Wake Parks to understand it is a great idea. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer, but I'd certainly volunteer to go see that, to learn and understand that.
And St. Cloud made the same invitation. St. Cloud said we can come take a look, and he'd be willing to answer whatever questions they could. Everybody's been very quick to, hey, we've been through it, come with us.
Don't invent the wheel twice, you know, so.
And St. Cloud uses the flow. You said they dump it into Lake George?
I don't know if all of theirs are flow through. They have like 3 or 4 of them.
Okay.
I know.
I don't believe they have any recirculating.
Okay, yeah, because they have Lake George, Riverside, which is on the east side, kind of that Munsinger Garden area, and then Westwood, and they might even have another one.
Well, if it's okay, we could meet with Bridget one of these first days and set up a time that she thinks, you know, that she would, you know, she'd talk to you people what time, set up a night where he could come to town and visit with and open up to the community. They could come and ask questions or do whatever, and we can, we'll meet with Bridget this week yet and see if we can set something up and have this guy come in and talk to us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Do
the
you
one.
want it as an
Go
open
ahead.
house, or would you want it as a council meeting session?
I don't know.
More of an open
Probably
house.
more of an open house, yeah, yeah.
That gives us more flexibility on days of the
Yeah.
week and things.
Yeah, you know, there, as this thing progresses, you know, there's gonna be a lot more questions than answers. I think it's that, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you get the property and then figure this stuff out on the back end, knowing somewhat solid budget numbers? Or do we try to get as much of that figured out ahead of time? You know, and that's the questions you guys have to, you know, answer, and how does that work in, and is it viable to move forward? But yes, everybody's been very helpful, and to add to that, a local builder who actually put us in contact with this gentleman from Wisconsin, Jeff Ryder with Custom Builders in Rockville, who's actually built some of these. So we have a local builder who said, and he was willing to be on the committee, and we thought maybe in the future, if he ever was gonna bid on it, that'd be a conflict of interest, so we actually asked him to be off the committee just to stay neutral on it. But he too, he's physically built them, is willing to help in whatever way as well.
And I do think by having the guy come from Wisconsin talk to us, we could get the people fired up in the area and help us on donations. You know, people that, you know, that might help create some money for us. So, okay, if we get the okay, we'll meet with Bridget and,
Yeah.
So just need the recommendation.
Oh, you want a recommendation?
Yes, please.
Recommendation to approve moving forward with the plans to develop a splash pad within Cold Spring and to continue to investigate Granite Landing as a viable location. Do I hear a motion on that?
Make a motion.
Gary makes a motion. How about a second? Jamie seconds it. Any other discussion on it? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
thank you
Appreciate it.
very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay, moving on. Number 6, Xcel Energy agreement to provide electricity to the Fraley property.
Thanks for coming.
As some of you know, our contract for our well site was, in our purchase agreement, we were required to bring power out to the Fraleys, to make their pivot an electric pivot instead of a gas pivot that they have right now. And this is the agreement that we have to sign for Xcel to get moving on that project, to get it done. It has to be done by December 31st, and once we sign this, they should be able to get it going in the next couple weeks. So I just need that.
Recommendation to approve the statement of work agreement with Xcel Energy for running 3-phase power to the well property for an estimated cost of $285,689.82.
Before we vote,
Heidi, go ahead.
Is the cable that they're running in, I mean, at what point is it in the township road right of way?
I think they have they have a utility right away. They're just changing the power to
Yeah,
a
they
three.
have power out there now, it's just not
Okay.
three-phase.
So
Yeah,
it's just gonna travel along the same,
Pretty much the same path.
same line, yeah. It's just gonna it has to be more, the thicker cable and the higher transition.
okay. Can we get copies of this
Mhm.
agreement? Thank you.
After we sign it?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
good. You're welcome. Now, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Doug makes a motion,
Second that.
but Shannon seconds it. Any discussion on this? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Number 7, liability insurance coverage waiver.
Every year, we up our insurance, or re-up our insurance for all of our equipment and liabilities as the city, and we are time to renew ours, and under Minnesota, they have a limit on punitive damages for tort liability, $500,000 per person, $1.5 million per incident. If you waive those limits, then it could be any number. Obviously, our insurance agent is requesting that we don't waive those limits, and so I just need that recommendation to not waive.
Okay, recommendation to approve maintaining the liability insurance coverage at the statutory limit. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Shannon makes a motion, but a second.
I'll second it.
Gary seconds it. Any discussion on that? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Number 8, local board of appeal and equalization transfer agreement.
We had this on for discussion a couple meetings ago. However, Councilmember Schmidt wasn't here, so we had to table it because we all have to sign off on it. This is transferring the local board of equalization to go to the open meeting process. And what that does is the county assessor will set a date, just like we would have a date set for our Board of Appeals and Equalization. And they would sit here, and anyone who wanted to could meet with them one-to-one. That person gets to have all their questions answered, not sitting here in front of you, requiring you to make decisions on there. And it gives them more of an opportunity to really understand why the assessment was what was done and make that determination on whether or not to appeal it to the county board. Just like if they disagreed with you, they'd still go to the county board. It's taking you out of the equation. It could be permanent, or it could be a minimum of 3 years and then reassess in 3 years if we want to stay with it or not. So those are two things I need to know. Do we want it to be permanent, which I would write in here, or 3 years, and then in 3 years, the county would come back and say, do you want to make it permanent?
I would look at it as being to assess it within 3 years to see if it's still a good process.
I agree.
I would too. Let's do this. Recommendation to approve the transfer of the Board of Appeal and Equalization to Stearns County. Do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Gary makes a motion. Second?
I'll
By
second.
Jamie. Now, any discussion on this? I agree with Shannon.
That motion
I
is
think
for 3 years?
for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Yeah, for 3 years.
So we probably want to add to that motion what Shannon
Yeah.
brought up.
Yeah,
And that was,
for trial.
Yeah,
3
the
years.
recommendation would be for 3 years
Okay.
trial
to review it
period.
again.
Yeah, and then so that it can be reviewed and make sure it's still
Yeah.
working.
Yep. All right, any other discussion on that? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Before you leave, you all have to sign it. Normally, only the mayor signs everything, but you do need to sign it before, so I have that here.
Should we just send it
You
down
can right now
now?
if you want.
Number 9, Police Department report. Chief Jason Bloom. Hey, Jason.
Mr. Mayor, Council. All right, so as you all know, over the last month or so, we've gone through a process to fill the open sergeant position in the department. After looking at everything, the committee's recommendation is to approve a conditional offer for the promotion of Officer Jason Spoden for the position of sergeant, and then similar to past processes with an updated criminal history and psychological examination. And I thought he was going to be here today, but we had a bike rodeo over in Richmond, and I guess it went late.
You just want a
Okay,
recommendation?
now you need a, yeah.
So, yeah.
You want somebody to make a motion to approve Jason Spoden as sergeant?
Yes.
I'll make that
Conditional.
motion.
Conditional, okay. Jamie makes the motion. Doug, did you second it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Doug seconds it. Any discussion on that?
Tell them congratulations.
Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Perfect, thank you, and I will let him know. And then second off, now we have an open full-time position and a part-time position that still need to be filled. So right now we have a couple of part-timers that are definitely qualified and interested in a full-time position. I would recommend that we post that internally, probably similar to what we did the last couple, just for 2 weeks, and then open up a part-time extra, just open it up to anybody that wants to apply to fill that position. And that'll be roughly 30 days, so hopefully we can get a larger number of applicants.
Yeah, that's, I mean, do we need a motion on that?
Yep, it's in there.
Oh, this is that, okay, here's the recommendation, okay. Recommendation to approve posting for a full-time police officer position internally for 2 weeks and to post for a part-time police officer position for 30 days.
And can I add to that quickly?
Go ahead.
Richmond has the option with their contract to be on that committee. My assumption is we'll probably do something similar to what we did last time with the 2 administrators and myself on there. I'll verify with them what they want to do, and by the time the application process is closed, I'll come back and make sure you guys are aware of what's going on and see if anything changes. And okay, so
Okay, Shannon makes a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Gary seconds it. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That motion carries.
excellent, thank you. And then one last thing, not that we've had any issues recently, but every couple of years we kind of go through a wave of, kids call it car shopping. They just go around, they check, they pull on doors, and if one opens, they go in, they grab loose change, cell phone chargers, just anything you got laying around in your car. Just make sure everybody's locking up their cars, locking up their sheds, anything valuable, and just kind of protect yourself a little bit and just kind of spread the word to make sure to keep things locked up. It helps us out quite a bit. So, but that's all I have.
All right,
Alrighty.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Works report, John Stevie and Brian Lynch.
Good evening. Short and sweet tonight.
All right.
I'm actually going to do B first. It just kind of makes sense to approve the grant. So I applied for, I think I told you this a while back, I applied for the competitive grant through the Department of Health. That's up to $10,000, and it's also a 2-year deal. Little background on it, we do the competitive grant and also the implementation grant. The implementation grant is only for things inside of the DWISMA for our wildlife protection plan. The competitive one is for things outside of it. One of the things we put in our competitive grant is inside the DWISMA, but our implementation grant is up to $10,000, and we usually have that full. So this is just kind of a way to get, implementation is 100% paid for, competitive is 50-50. So this one that we just got is 50-50. We also did get the implementation grant last year, which was full. My plan in the future now is to get rid of some of the turf festival, things like that, and add this crop conversion into the implementation grant, so it is 100% paid for. Things that are more of a necessity to Cold Spring. So for now, to approve the entering into the source water protection grant for the competitive grant. So if you want to read the recommendation.
I'll read the recommendation. Recommendation to approve entering into the source water protection grant with the Minnesota Department of Health for a grant in the amount of $5,105. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Shannon makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Jamie seconds it. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That motion carries.
And the reason why it's also higher than the payment for crop conversion is we have our producers luncheon. We host at the brew house for the farmers. They come and we usually get, I think last year we had about 15 farmers probably around the area that came. And there's a few different people there, Pheasants Forever, some nitrate clinic type people, and then the city some of the city staff, myself and Tanya. So that extra $605 is for that. And then staff time and things like that for Stearns County Soil and Water. So then the next one is Tom Hanson, Prairie View Farms crop conversion payment of $4,500.
Recommendation to approve the annual payment of $4,500 to Prairie View Farms from the wellhead protection budget line item 6822. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Gary makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second it.
Doug seconds it. Any discussion on this? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
And that's a total of 15 acres that he turns into
Can you get
alfalfa
a
for us.
quick just tell us exactly what it is?
Yep, so basically there's 15 acres that kind of are around our well houses up there where we pump. And they were row crop years ago. And we've had nitrate problems in Cold Spring, especially up there. And this part of our wellhead protection plan came along to convert row crop into alfalfa, which reduces the nitrates getting down to the drinking water. So we pay him $4,500 a year to keep corn and beans out of there, just alfalfa, so it's not allowing the nitrates to get down to the water. And we have statistics showing that it has lowered the nitrates for us. It doesn't always consistently lower it, but it has helped. And hopefully, as long as it keeps helping, I think it's a good idea for us to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And he's very willing to work with us on it. Normally it's a 2-year deal, but like I said before, next year I want to add it into the implementation so it is 100% covered, but for now it's 50-50, so.
All
That's
right.
kind of a little runaround on that. Tom's been very good to work with. He's actually, he rents some land over by the Fairley property that we purchased too, and if anything like this needs to happen out there in the future, he's a great person to work with on it, so. Nice to keep him happy, and he's good to work for. So, that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 11, City Engineer Report, Brian Lynchen.
Mr. Mayor and Council, making good progress on Main Street. About a third of the project was blacktop this afternoon. If the weather holds, the remainder should be done tomorrow with the first lift. So it's going to be rain dependent. We had a bunch of sidewalk go in the last couple days, and we'll continue to go in the next couple days. So really after that, it's getting the trees in, getting some of the granite flagstone around the trees, just some of the finishing stuff at that point. The section from Schweel Hardware to the bridge, we got the gas main lowered through there. So the next step is to go in, we'll get rid of some of the little places where the granite randomly popped up, take those down, and then start working on that section of road. But the heavy focus will be on getting the other parts done ahead of Hometown Pride. The lighting, we're working with them a little on that. There's probably going to be some temporary lighting in there. Basically, there was some nationwide shortage of lighting equipment, so we aren't going to be able to get our final light poles in there ahead of Hometown Pride, but we're working to still get light down there. So we'll have light, it just may not be the prettiest looking light pole in the world. So we basically the circuit boards for the LEDs have been back ordered nationwide, so there wasn't a lot we could do about that. Otherwise, we're on schedule. Any questions on Main Street?
No, it looks good so far.
Yeah, it'll look good once it's blacktopped.
Mhm.
Reminder to the general public, once it is blacktopped, that it is not open yet. We are still actively working on on the site, so ask that you please don't use it as a thoroughfare. Otherwise, County Road 2, the fence is up. It's been adjusted and plantings are coming soon behind here. So we're waiting on Kramer to get in and get us some topsoil so we can get the plants in.
Okay. You had a question about the
Is
fences.
there supposed to be a cap or a rail on the posts?
There is not a cap
Okay.
designed for those.
Okay.
It's something we're looking at on the Main Street one. We might, especially because it's a lot closer to, this one at least has a little separation with the flower bed. The one on Main Street's going to be closer, looking at adding some sort of cap. But that was not part of the original design
Okay.
feature.
Okay. Are you done?
That's it. Unless there's any other questions.
Any questions for Brian or John? All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, guys.
Number 12, City Administrator Report.
I know a couple of you had forwarded me an email about the grant writing opportunity in Buffalo that I also received, and I just wanted to let you know I did apply for it. I took one about 15 years ago when I worked for the state, and it's time for a refresher. This is a two-day one. The one I took was a one-day, so I think it'll be helpful, even if we end up having a grant writer doing some of the work for us instead of myself. I'll at least have...
You have a better understanding.
I'll
of
be
what's
able to
going
direct
on.
better.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to let you know about that. And otherwise, that's it. Not much going on.
Well, then we're to list of bills and additions. Recommendation to review and accept payment of the accounts payable according to the list and supplemental list presented by city staff. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the most pay the bills.
Doug makes a motion. How about a second?
I'll second that.
Shannon seconds it. Any discussion on that? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Aye. Against?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I did.
Motion still carries.
If you want to put them on the spot, and I'll be walked in.
Oh, there he is.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Sergeant.
You want the job, right? Alright.
Sure.
Sure doesn't
I just
sound
like to
very
make sure.
I do have the same benefits. I couldn't find it, so I took it out.
Oh, you want to say something yet then?
Well, it's the St. Boniface Parade. This really isn't, I mean, I need to let you know it's time to decide who's going to go and what we're going to use. So we can bring it to the next one.
Okay, we'll do the next meeting.
Keep that on mind, August 20th.
All right. Number 15, board and commission updates. Park board, have you guys met lately?
I did not make the last meeting.
Okay.
But there was basically the splash pad, what we got tonight.
Mm-hmm. Planning? Do you want me to do it, Shannon?
Go ahead.
There wasn't a whole lot. We had Ray Schreiner with his last area up at North Point for his preliminary plat. Otherwise, there wasn't anything
was-
discussed.
Really the only thing
Yeah.
that was major that we discussed. So.
Yeah. How about EDA?
I was in Chicago.
I didn't make it either.
Okay.
We had the,
Okay.
You were there. It was the open house.
it was the open house, business after hours.
Oh, I was
Oh, after hours? Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was here.
Okay. Move on to the trail board or what?
I was here for a while.
was
Shannon
here
was
for
here
a
for a
while.
while, yeah. But, okay, that was the EDA. How about the trail, Ricori Trail Construction Board? Have you guys met?
We did. Finishing up on what would be called Phase 2 in Rockville. Getting the money to close that one out. That grant will be closed out and will be done. In Phase 3, they own the property. They have the engineering design. Now it's just a matter of
Okay.
seeking money for that last section of trail.
And that's the expensive one.
That's the expensive one.
Good.
A lot of compliments on that trail. Pete and I were over in Rockville last week for a demonstration of a bituminous manure deal. And, a lot of locals that were not in favor of the trail are very happy with how it turned out. So.
Yeah.
There's a, one of those stone mason culverts that they re-engineered and cleaned it up and fixed it up. And they put fencing over it on that part of the trail. It's really pretty. If you can get down there, it's at the Cold Spring side. So when you,
Oh, way
when you
on the
go
west
down
side,
on
they were
whatever,
putting-
what's that road by, to turn onto, to turn into Rockville?
No, the other
the
one.
closer one.
Broadway
Broadway.
West, and then I think it's right by that cul-de-sac that used to be Old 23.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you go into that cul-de-sac, you can see that. It's beautiful.
they were putting railings up today there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it. Oh, the closed meeting? I have
That
to read
happens
this whole
now.
thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. We will be having a closed meeting, consideration of an offer to purchase property within Granite Landing with parcel identification numbers 48.29401.0006 and 48.29401.0016. This meeting will be closed pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.05 subdivision 3 C3.
And I should clarify before, to make sure, the two members who have worked for and currently work for do not have, for the Granite Company, do not have any, that you know of, financial gain in the sale of land to the corporation, correct?
I do not.
Right. And so that would mean that you would have no conflict of interest in deciding this, making this decision.
All right.